to The View from Highland Park. I'm Pam Chill, and we're doing this is actually our second show, The View from Highland Park. And today's program is going to be a discussion of both medical and recreational use of marijuana. On my panel and my producers, we're all co-producers, we consist of Suzanne Conman.
Hi,
welcome
everybody.
back, and Joyce Bernstein.
Hello.
Alrighty. So we're three different women with three different opinions, although on this one we might agree on a lot of things.
so.
This might be one of the few shows that we actually all agree on benefits.
Probably,
Okay, yes. Suzanne, would you like to start a little bit talking about medical marijuana?
Well, medical marijuana, I remember years ago, I had a friend, in fact, somebody that was on one of my shows, and she had MS, and she could not hold a pen. If she had a pen in her hand, it would just fall right off. And she couldn't even hold a fork or a knife, and she was in really bad shape. And at that time, marijuana, of course, wasn't even thinking, they never thought about being legal, but she had put it in, she made some brownies, and she cut it, she had a whole platter of brownies, and she cut it into like real tiny pieces, like little, like 1/16 of a cake. And every couple of hours, she would have a piece of brownie. And what happened, the fork, the knife, the pen, she was able to hold. In fact, she came on one of my shows that I did many years ago that we had spoke on marijuana. And that was, I was afraid that, oh my God, I'm doing a show on marijuana. Maybe I would have the police and I would be brought out and who knows what would happen. But it turned out that I couldn't believe the difference between her not using a small amount of marijuana to help her with her paralysis. Like she was shaking. Honest to God, she could not keep a pen in her hand until she took a little teeny weeny part of a brownie, and it worked for her. So I saw the benefits, and that was years ago, and I was blown away by it.
Well, there are a lot of medical benefits, as you know. A lot of people, they get certified. So what they do is they register, the doctor certifies them for one of the ailments that would be qualified to get medical marijuana.
Yeah, nowadays, absolutely. You have to see, in fact, I have really bad inflammation in my leg, and it was my rheumatologist that suggested, because I've been on prednisone for almost 7 years, and the prednisone after a while really takes a toll on one's body, and he was the one that suggested. So you're getting the medical community now that's pro-marijuana. I haven't taken it yet, but in order to receive it, you have to go to you have to go to the doctor twice, and it's not cheap. It's like $200 a visit before you're qualified for it. So you get it. So you have to get a prescription from your own doctor, and then you go to a marijuana doctor, and the doctor, of course, is in Highland Park. This station's coming from Highland Park, and they have
a dispensary, I believe, is also
in Highland Park and in Deerfield as well. And I mean, after $400, then you're eligible for marijuana.
Is insurance picking up any of
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, too.
No,
Even if it's approved and everything, they won't pay for it.
Right now, they don't pay for it, so it's out of pocket right
It
now.
might happen in the future. As far as I know, some states are trying to work with insurance because right now it's cash, right? It's not even, is it a credit card too?
Yeah, they take a credit card.
They take a credit card, okay.
Yeah, and they examine you, because I went with somebody that, and they examine you twice, right?
Right, twice. But it's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Pritzker, in his primary campaign, he emphasized the economic benefits of marijuana, and Illinois was the 11th state to legalize it.
I think it's going to be legalized in January of 2020.
January of 2020. They
yeah.
need time, they
So
said,
right
yes.
now, how can you get it from a dispensary if it's not legal yet?
You can get it for the medical version.
Medical
but
is,
not
Medical.
recreational
medical
at this
is
time, right?
legal.
And they ask a question in the paper, what is the difference between medical and non-medical marijuana? And they say there's no real difference. It's called weed, herb, pot, grass, bud, all those things. It's known under those names. And it's a greenish-gray mixture. And a lot of doctors are against it because it cuts into, and pharmacies, it cuts into their profits, you know, if they're giving different drugs for pain, you know, and this helps people even more, you know. So they're not really approving of it, a lot of the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies to date.
Well, don't you think, Pam, that it should be in the hands of, like, I think I would feel safer with the drug if it was given by, say, Walgreens or CVS, you know, where they can, you know, it's like in a capsule or in a pill form, and it's 2.5 or 5 milligrams, you know, and I think doctors, physicians probably would feel better about it if it was like that too, than going to one of these clinics and they give you oils, they give you, you know, like gummy bears.
Gummy bears. Some are edible, some are non-edible,
Yeah,
some
some
are
you smoke,
brownies.
some are
you
cream,
smoke, right.
some you put in tea, like oil you put
Yeah.
in tea. I mean, there's different kinds, and I think if it was in the hands of physicians and in the hands of pharmaceutical companies, I think people would feel better about it.
Well, as it is right now, you know, there are different people that are growing it. From what all the
Correct.
research that I've read is it's better to have one distributorship, that they're not having like different people growing it and then selling to somebody else who's then putting it all together. It's better and more controlled if that one company is doing it all from the initial process of growing the marijuana and then processing it.
Yeah, but my reading on Governor Pritzker said that he feels that the people that are missing out is the African Americans, and he wants them to have their own companies, and they could grow it, and so they would have a piece of pie also. So it doesn't sound like what you're saying is, it sounds that's the best, but now, according to Pritzker, what I read, he wants it in the hands of different people.
Now, was he talking about like for your own use? Because I read so many different things on it that they probably will be able to grow your own very small amount
Yeah.
if you are using it for medicinal purposes,
Oh, for
not
medicinal.
for recreational.
Yeah.
I think for distribution of it, like for a company, he says that a lot of people that are getting rich off it, people are making millions of dollars, and it's on the stock market and
Yeah.
everything
The people
else.
who got in very early.
Yeah.
Even
But that's
now.
why he wants it in the hands of people, so that African Americans can have also a piece of pie, grow their own, and distribute it as well. I just read about it.
Oh, and this is
yeah.
something new. That's encouraging. It's enlightening. So we do have the products, as you're saying. Also the CBD, which is the hemp, extract. It's not actually, it's part of it, but it's not actually part of cannabis marijuana. So it doesn't have, any effects that would be cumbersome to you, would make you that high effect. The high effect is a THC that is taken out of it. Now, right, and what I've read on a lot of things, but if you have a very high security job, you're a teacher, you're a police officer, a firefighter, you really should not be taking it because it can show up in drug testing.
But if they take the THC out of it,
It's still a
And for
very,
med-
very small
yeah.
amount on continuous use or right before. It stays in your system sometimes 2 weeks to a month, that can stay in your system. And what you have to go for on the CBDs is you have to go for the smallest percentage. The higher the percentage, the more long-term acting effects. So that will show up if you have to have any type of drug testing on your job.
the only thing is if you're taking it for medicinal usage, and you're taking it for, for pain or inflammation or MS or now they're showing that this drug is good for seizures.
Seizures,
And-
yes.
and-
Even in children.
Yeah,
There's a whole
right,
special.
right.
I pulled up a form, and it was the minor qualifying patient application, So minors, are allowed to take it as long as obviously, parental or guardian consent with that.
But I was wondering
and the doctor.
if a teacher had seizures, or for somebody on the job that shows on drug testing and they really need the drug, how do they differentiate between the job and they have to take the medication? See, I'm just wondering, like you said,
Right.
that, they would have to, if they shows up, they can be fired from their job. But if it shows that they have, for medical marijuana, and they're using it for seizures, and they're a policeman or a fireman or somebody that's, that has to take it, what do you do then?
I don't know. It would probably have to go on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Also-
I know there's so many lawsuits and litigation because it has shown up and
They're
people have been
supposed
fired.
there's scrutiny now because there's a link to psychosis if you take marijuana. It was in the newspaper on half a page, and it says, while the vast majority of adult marijuana users consume it without incidents, advocates say the link between THC potency and psychosis has generated an increased concern recently among psychiatrists and researchers. It also can cause schizophrenia, but some people say that's not true, and I don't know if it's been proven or not. It doesn't prove that cannabis causes psychosis, but some researchers suspect that people predisposed to psychosis may be more likely to use cannabis. And this emergence of warrants serious consideration from the point of view of the public health policy also. So I don't know how they would prove it, but they haven't proved it yet, but there is some sort of a link, they say. So people have to be, they could be
From
afraid
what
to take
I've
it.
read too, not everyone is an ideal candidate.
No.
If they suffer from, paranoia, different neuroses,
Right.
they may not be an ideal candidate, especially anything with the THC component still in it.
And that's why for medical marijuana, they're scrutinized very, you cannot get it unless you go to a physician that, that is experienced in referring you to cannabis. And so when it becomes, like she said, recreational, and what happens if somebody is pregnant and they don't know they're
right.
pregnant?
And they don't know.
And
you
they don't
mean,
know they're pregnant, and they're
definitely,
taking.
there could be a risk.
Yeah, there could be a risk there. And
Even measles, they
Yeah.
said was a risk if you had German measles. I've known of a case where the daughter wasn't right because the mother, took that during her pregnancy.
Yeah. So that's why I kind of like the idea that it's used for medical, but recreational is kind of scary because you don't know they are not they don't go to a medical doctor before they take the drug. It's a drug like any other drug, like alcohol.
People can say they have medical reasons and they don't have to really have anything serious, and they're able to get it by not telling the truth or doctors saying it's okay or whatever.
But I don't even know if for recreational you don't even need to go
For
to a doctor.
recreational, you will not have to see
you
a
won't
physician.
have to.
No.
No, and the other thing that I have read too about recreational use is when it is finally enacted in January of 2020, is that those people who are incarcerated having low, very small amounts of marijuana will probably be exonerated, not exonerated, but expunged or their sentence is commuted, and if they're still serving time, obviously, it's a legal drug now. There's no point in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't be able to come out of prison because they were sent into prison because of their usage and maybe supplying it to other people.
It all depends on the amounts.
Yes, yes.
Right, the amounts.
And is it just marijuana? Was it heroin? Was it other drugs besides?
No, right now it's just as far as I know, but correct me if I'm
Marijuana.
wrong, as far as I know, it's still
The
just
studies on
marijuana.
marijuana.
Right.
And one of the things, though, which seems hard to believe, but it says it reduces pain and can reduce cancer spread by turning off genes in tumor development. I mean, have you heard that? I've never
I
heard
have not heard
that.
that. Pain, yes.
The pain,
yeah,
but not
there's-
to stop the spread. I mean, I
That
don't know.
I do not
They would,
know.
They would have to prove it.
Well, epilepsy, where they have seizures, because a lot of times what happens when, especially in kids, I happen to know I have a cousin who has epilepsy, and she gets seizures, and her mom's been trying so many different medications. After a while, the medication for her seizures stops working.
Oh.
And they have found that marijuana is a much better drug than a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs that they're being
Right.
used for seizures. So a lot of the doctors are advocating for marijuana in epilepsy and seizures, for especially in young people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they call marijuana a miracle, a lot of
Yeah.
people and sources.
Right. For certain illnesses, I believe that it absolutely is
Yeah.
the best alternative.
I
Absolutely.
I know we go to Mexico a lot, and they, you just go into the pharmacy, and it is part marijuana and part peyote, and they sell it in their pharmacy
Oh.
it's in a cream form, and you put it on your knee or your arm,
It's
wherever
not
you're having the
oral.
pain. It's not oral. It's in cream form, and they sell it all over Mexico. And it's very helpful for people that are having joint pains. And it's been like this, we were in Mexico last year and they were selling it. So they've been selling it, in the pharmacy for the last couple of years there.
They
Well,
even give it for
really that-
fibromyalgia. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Right.
They call it miracle in the bottle.
And this is like in a jar. It looks like a hand cream.
Well, it's obviously, they did enact an opioid alternative pilot program. So, in order to get people off of the opioids, they have to have something for the
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
And this is very good. And it also lessens the amount of opioids that you will need.
Yeah, I read that.
Instead of taking something 4 or 5 times a day, maybe you could take, once or twice, and then keep, lowering the dosages.
Now, is there any correlation between taking marijuana and, they've always been talking about if you start taking, smoking cigarettes, it'll lead to marijuana, then marijuana leads
Oh,
to
yeah.
other, like
Heroin.
heroin and different drugs. Has there been any studies of this?
As far as I know, the only correlation that I've read, the research that I've done, believe me, there's so much out there,
Right.
is that the opioids can lead to heroin, the addictive opioids.
What did they do?
The opioids can lead to heroin addiction.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
but
yeah.
not to marijuana.
That was always called the mild one. Like,
See, I still feel that it needs to be regulated. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't know how
definitely.
much to take.
yeah,
Like,
when do you get to the point where it's you can't
Right.
return, point of no return?
Right. I mean, they gave me in a little bottle of oil, and they said, well, just put a little bit. I mean, what's a little bit? Is it like a little teeny circle? Is it more? And how much is this? Am I taking 1%? Am I taking, I'm like 1 milligram, or am I taking 2 milligrams or 3 milligrams? I have no idea. That's why it's a little bit scary for people that need it for medical purposes, because there's no milligrams, and you don't know how
Oh,
much to
right.
take and how much not to take.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
even with this being legal, there's no, I mean, you can't, like, if you take an aspirin, you know how many milligrams you're taking.
Yeah.
Right, even if you cut it in half, you
Yeah.
still know,
Or any
how much
medication.
you're taking.
Yeah, it's
Right.
listed right on the
Right.
bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's pill cutters, like you can, like if the doctor, you have a 2 milligram, he says, I want you down to 1 milligram of say
Like
like
warfarin or something,
yeah,
right,
It's
yeah.
a line through it. You could just break it in half. With a pill cutter, cut it in half, or with a knife or something. But with this, you don't know. This is the problem. It's they tell you, oh, just take a drop. But what does a drop mean?
Yeah.
A drop to you, drop to you.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a recipe. Grandma's recipe. She
Yes.
put a little of that,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
pinch of salt, a pinch of this, but you don't really know what you're taking. I mean, it's still a little scary. And I think I said to you at lunch today, I said to you, I have not taken it yet. And, I know that your husband's a physician. I said, maybe you guys got to come over to my house and I'll sit there on the couch and I'll take it and I'll see what happens to me. I really don't want to take it without a doctor being there.
Right,
I mean, this is
right.
scary.
You're
Right.
scared that you might have a bad effect.
What if I have a bad
Climbing the walls and
reaction?
we'll have to close all the window
Yeah.
shades and
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had,
Yeah.
I mean, I.
Does it hit you all at once, the bad news?
Yeah, I mean, I had I had duck with juniper berries and ended up in the hospital because I became
Oh, yeah.
allergic to the sauce. I stopped breathing. So, it's just scary. You just don't know. If you have allergies to certain meds, you don't know what something like this could
Yeah.
cause, a bad effect.
Because on other things, when you get drugs at Walgreens or any pharmacy, they ask you what else you're taking.
Yeah.
They're supposed to.
Yeah,
anyway.
and certain drugs you can't, like if you're on
Mix.
medication.
You'll have an interaction,
Yeah,
right?
an interaction, even if you're on medication and you take grapefruit juice, you're not allowed to have grapefruit juice with medication.
Yeah, I know,
Right.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
plain old grapefruit
Right.
juice.
Yeah.
So how do you,
Right, and you can't have salads if you're on warfarin, too much vitamin K, there's
Yeah.
different things that will either increase or decrease the effect of the medication that you're taking.
Exactly. So how do you know if somebody's on medical marijuana, who is the person that, when you go to these clinics, they're just young people that are behind the counter.
They don't know.
And they don't know. They just say, here's a bag of this, or this is a
Yeah.
bag of for you. Oh, your inflammation. Here's your bag.
Even pharmacists don't always know. They say, "Oh, take it all. It's okay."
Yeah, yeah.
Pharmacists.
Was it busy when you were there? Just out of
Oh, yeah.
curiosity?
Yeah, I went with
yeah.
her to keep her company.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it? It's a lot of
Yeah, there
people.
was a waiting. She
Yeah.
had to wait. There were quite a few people
I
ahead
mean,
of her.
it's like all of Highland Park is going to
No, they were from
the
elsewhere.
dispensary.
One good thing about it, though, CBD, what is it called?
Cannabis.
Yeah, has been
Cannabis,
found to reduce
cannabidol.
alcohol-related brain damage, preventing neuronal loss by its antioxidant and immunodulatory properties, such a long word. They say there's benefits of people against alcohol use disorder, that's AUD, we looked up. And, but it interacts with CB2 receptors, which are located throughout the body. So anyway, it could have more positive effects in subjects with AUD, including anti-epileptic, cardioprotective, anxiolytic, whatever it is that, I don't know what that is, or analgesics ones. Human studies are crucially needed. They need more studies on this to explore the many prospects of CBD in AUD and related conditions. So it says you don't drink as much if you take marijuana, probably. It's not needed, I guess. And there's time still to submit public comment to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, too, because hundreds of people have submitted information so far.
Right.
Because I know there's studies being done at Harvard Medical School, because my information came from Harvard Medical School, my professor, Peter Grinspoon, who is a physician, he's an internist, and he does a lot of studies on medical cannabis. And he's a doctor for cannabis regulation. So I guess they've been doing a lot of research on it because it treats glaucoma and a lot of other things besides, all kinds of, and so I'm wondering who is doing all this research and how, they even said Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, all kinds of, who's doing this research and how are they getting to this research? I mean, it's really interesting.
What
You
about
know.
in Europe? Is it more lenient there?
Well,
Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of medicine.
in the Netherlands, Netherlands, it's been legal for many, many years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And you also mentioned legal medical marijuana is tied to lower opioid use also. They have studies on that. A study found that too. And people, alcohol too.
Yeah, I just hope that they start getting the pharmaceutical companies involved so that they can regulate. That's what I'm worried about. My big thing is on regulation, putting them in the right milligrams so you know exactly what, people need, because you may need
Right.
1.5 milligrams, she may need 5 milligrams, I may need 2.5 milligrams. We don't know.
2.5 is when you do register, you're allowed 2.5
Are you?
of
Yeah.
every 14
Does it
days.
matter how large a person you are, how much you weigh or anything? I mean,
Usually all medication goes by weight.
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do they know it's 2.5? I'm wondering who is, who is
That's
how-
what you're
yeah.
legally allowed as
Yeah.
far as the medical marijuana.
Oh.
I think they want to keep it very low because they don't want you obviously giving it or selling it. So
Yeah,
it has
right,
to be
that's true.
a small amount that you keep coming back for if your ailment necessitates it.
improved, or
so
if
you have
it's
to prove-
improved.
But,
Yeah.
but I was kind of looking at the people that are selling it. They're kind of like, they're like maybe 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds or 20. And how did they know? I mean, it's not like, you go into like Walgreens or you go to CVS, and you have a pharmacist there. You're feeling. I know when I have a drug reaction, or I'm not sure about the milligrams or something's happening, I go to Walgreens and I talk to the pharmacist, and he'll say, you know what, I think this may be too much for you. Let's talk to your
Yeah.
doctor and have it decrease. There's nobody there. If you look at the age group that's behind the counters that are selling this medical marijuana, I mean, they're just somebody that they hired. They're
Right,
probably,
right.
it's probably a job for them,
most likely
a
that they
summer
are, right.
job.
Even
But
the
I-
people that fill the medicine,
Yeah.
they just look at it and.
Well, they're
Yeah.
pharmacy techs. They have been
Oh,
trained.
yeah,
They-
that
they
is
have gone
true.
to
That
school,
is true.
and they are licensed
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah.
But as far as the pharmaceutical companies going on the bandwagon, I don't think that that's going to happen. I mean, they have their own medications that they do research and FDA approval, and millions and millions and millions of dollars in control studies. Marijuana has become more of the independent. There are different companies doing it and different people processing and different people growing it, that have all come together, and they have to have strict licensing as well. But I don't see pharmaceutical companies ever joining this.
Yeah, see, that's where
I don't think they're interested.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they are, because I say, why I say that is because now your doctors are advocating for it. I mean, I
Are
went to a
they?
rheumatologist, and that was he was the person that sent me. I didn't go on my own.
Yeah,
Well, I think
so doctors are getting
right.
involved.
Doctors are getting involved in
Yeah.
advocating for it because doctors do not want to write opioid prescriptions
Oh,
because
right, that's
there's
true.
too much coming down on everybody. They don't want to, be part of this.
Right, and they
So
can be
they-
sued.
Right.
Yeah.
Sued, somebody gets an overdose, somebody gets into a car, whatever happens.
Yes.
This is an alternative, and you still want people to be relieved of their pain.
Correct.
See, that's why I think it'll catch up, and they will.
But there's so many
pharmaceuticals.
different ways. I mean, is it an oil? Is it a cream?
Right,
Is
right.
it
All
put
of
in
it.
brownies? Is it put in gummy bears? Is it,
and everything. Yeah, it's all.
I mean,
it's all of the above.
I've seen not so much the medical marijuana, but I mean, I've seen the CBD into so many different products. They had listed 73 different products for humans and pets. So they're getting on that too.
So the pets are taking marijuana?
Pets are taking it too. Dogs and cats, yes.
Really?
Yeah. Here's your catnip, and here's your CBD oil. Yes.
That's pretty funny.
So anyhow, I've been told we just have another minute of time. So what thoughts do you think? I mean, when this comes enacted and becomes law. So any parting thoughts with it, as far as marijuana?
Well, I think
Suzanne?
I think that people that are taking it as for medical, I think I don't have as much of a problem, but I think my problem is like young people. It's going to get in the hands of teenagers,
Oh,
and
right.
the teenagers driving, how it's going to affect
Yeah.
their driving. That's what concerns me, and I think that they need to, before they allow, because it's going to get into the high schools. It's probably in the high schools
I'm
right
sure.
now,
Yeah.
and a lot of them drive cars, and I'm just wondering if
Might
it's
have
going to
regulated.
it's going to speed them up. Are they going to drive much faster? The speed of it. That's what concerns me.
Mm-hmm. And you, Joyce? Just a few
Well,
minutes.
let's see. They have to just try it and see. Like, I can't take any pain medicine due to other conditions I have because it's bad for that. So I would probably be willing to try it if my pain was that severe. I just have to grin and bear it so far.
Right.
But I think people should probably try it, but do it as a low dose.